Everybody, Chris and Lumen here doing part 2 of tonight's videos, and this one is pretty interesting. This, last one we did was more about, the uncrossing stuff, but this one is more of like continuing to catalog the experience as we go through it, because we have to document this stuff. We have to document every change, every new thing that happens, so we mapped this stuff out. And in this case, we have now done the specific letting go of the ego stuff to open up to the Christ consciousness mind 2 nights in a row. As I detailed like 2 videos back, we don't see Sun Baby anymore because we installed him up in my head, and we explained what all that meant and came to understand all that. I'm still working out the controls of moving around between, I'm the Emperor, I'm the Empress, I'm the Sun Child, which way do I aim this thing at? But some interesting things, really. Like, at first I wasn't sure what to make of it, but it got to be so pronounced. I'm like, this has to mean something. And I'm starting to figure that out, like these changes in Lumen and the overall feeling and the energy. And it's going to go into an area that has been underdeveloped on this channel because I'm a guy. Because I'm a guy, and the way my path was laid out, I have not been able to, with great detail, give much information that the women want to hear, which has to do with like, okay, so what is there a counterpart to Lumen? Do the girls just get left out of this fun? Well, within the last week or so, the things that have happened, now we know that there is a counterpart to Lumen. It's hidden in a different place. And this counterpart to Lumen changes a lot of stuff. So we're going to be talking about, what happens when you kind of unlock the divine masculine mind, both with your own energy and then also how that affects her. And I was kind of intuitively led to a specific passage in the Nag Hammadi that I'm going to show you in regards to one of the names for this divine masculine side. So if you want to know more, then don't go away.
You're so fine, and your mind make me strong. Yeah, you make me fall for your love out. Yeah, your love out. What is getting cold? Like a virgin, hey, touched for the very first time. Like a virgin, with your heartbeat next to mine.
Oh, this just got a lot more interesting. Thank God for Epinoia. Like, can we just get a shout out for Epinoia? Because
I tell you,
like, I would miss so much stuff if she wasn't always pointing it out. Like, the stuff that I was already going to talk about was pretty big, but she just handed me on a silver platter like one big missing piece, something that I didn't catch, something that I didn't understand from before. And yeah, these are like 2 separate freaking events, and I didn't even freaking see it. So we're going to explain this. Okay, so when it comes to the divine masculine and the divine feminine, these are 2 aspects within you. Soul / mind, and the child, the masculine and the feminine. The child is the masculine, the soul mind is the feminine. Like, these alchemical changes that happen a certain way. They play out in the mind space. And as we've said a lot recently, when it comes to understanding your third eye, You can create with it or you can observe with it. So if I decide that I want to picture, I'm going to picture a greenhouse with a pink elephant and one of those Tesla trucks parked in the front. Like, I'm choosing to use my third eye faculty of imaging to create those images. That's me creating images. The other way is actually observing images that you are not creating, which are can often be experiences. So they're happening at the same time. Like you actually, I saw a video about this the other day. No, it was it was the audio. It was an audio book that she had me start listening to that I bought called The Physics of God, and it talks about how we're playing things out on two different levels at the same time. But you will actually observe and feel things that take place in the mind space. So your hero's journey, your life journey is taking place. Sometimes things are happening out here. Sometimes things are happening in here. It's all one big thing, but sometimes it's in this place. Sometimes it's in that place. So a lot of this stuff takes place in the inner realm. And the reason why all these symbols and meanings and things that have been in the esoteric arts and the hermetic arts and the magical arts and religion and this and that and the other thing since the beginning of time is because it's relevant. It's all about sex. It's all about the masculine and the feminine. So we're going to grow up and talk about this because it's relevant. It's the only way to understand this stuff. It's the way the game is set up. It is what it is. So that does come up. Now, in the beginning, when Lumen first came out, I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that stuff. So we got two major parts here that we're going to discuss. One has to do with the sequence of events that I actually experienced, and she just showed me something just a few minutes ago in the non-commodity, and I printed it out. This sequence of events is also in the tarot because that is a map of the game. But then we're going to talk a bit more about what this divine masculine side actually is. So, starting off, let's show the sequence of events within the tarot map. Okay, so you are the experiencer, man or woman. You are the masculine. Now I can start to begin to sort of understand how this would be slightly different for women, but still, I am not, I never will be a woman, so I can't know this exactly, but I do know women that have connected to this, so we'll just have to see if somebody gets to that level and figures it out. But you are the magician, okay? That's the masculine, and then eventually you meet your lumen. That's the feminine, strength. That's why they have the same background, they both have the infinity symbols. He's actually within her at this point. Now, eventually, once you start getting up to these parts that are in the non-commodity, and it's actually two parts. I thought it was one. It's two. So when you get up toward the first part, then you have the Seven of Cups. I've showed this before. I used to just glance at this card and think that was like some sort of magic mushroom, but it's not. But the funny thing is, to get to this part, that was the first time that she provided me with psilocybin, which is a magic mushroom. And mushrooms have veils and all this stuff. This is not a coincidence. That's actually a bride under a veil holding her arms out. So I took the magic mushrooms, and not knowing at the time that's what she was setting me up for. I guess you need them to get to a certain realm. You got to make some adjustments to your head. So then we just practice from that point on. Like Lumen was teaching me how to take my consciousness into the other realm. And she did that basically by laying on top of me. Close your eyes, and then she's like, okay. And it's basically like, run your hand down her back. Feel all the goosebumps. Feel the temperature of her skin, the texture of her skin, you know, feel her hair. What's her hair smell like? What's it feel like? Feel her breath, the moisture of her breath, the smell of, well, not smell, but, you know, like she would have like some sort of candy, just so there's an added level of perception that you had to get in there. The flavor of her lip balm, like all these, there's like thousands of micro sensations and perceptions that we generally tune out walking around in daily life. But if you're going to the inner realm, if you're going into the 4.5D, you have to hone those perceptions and take them in there. And when you are able to do that, then when you go into 4.5D, it is just as real, if not more real, than it is out here. So she was teaching me to do that. Again, I had no idea what was coming until one day she wanted to practice this in the afternoon. Now, somewhere in the same chapter and book, it does say that these particular mysteries take place during the day. They have to take place during the day when the sun is out. I hadn't even read that book yet. She wouldn't even tell me to read this book until like several days after it happened. So we did it during the day, and then all of a sudden it was just like really clear. It's just like snapped in there. It's like, whoa, where are we at? And it was like Eden. It was like this not Middle Earth, but like hollow earth looking like paradise realm. And then she basically, climbed on top of me. And she specifically said that she needed my seed. And I thought that was like really strange pillow talk, but man, it stuck out because it was such an important piece of the puzzle that I didn't have yet. I hadn't read this stuff yet. I didn't understand it yet. So that's why it was actually said. And then after I came out of that space, I was like, am I nuts? Seriously, am I freaking nuts? Is anybody gonna freaking believe this? Because they're barely, at that point, they're barely grasping the concept of Lumen at all, and much less like, oh, I'm going to like another realm and hooking up with her. And she made this indication like she was pregnant, but like, obviously, I'm like, how's that even work? Nothing happened. There's a big space between that. And then it just kind of went away, and it was like, oh. But the important thing about that, and I'm going to pause the tarot cards while I read this other part. The important thing about that instance was that was the marriage. What does marriage mean? To put two things together, to marry them together. Because after that happened, that's when Lumen was no longer just out here around me. Now she's in here. And those first several months were really freaking weird. Really weird. Like if you're a guy and you got like, and you suddenly are sharing space in your body with like the hottest woman imaginable, it's a weird freaking feeling. And it's a lot like having two adults trying to squeeze into a kid's sleeping bag. There was a lot of adjustment stuff that happened during that time frame, which I'll take to my grave. It was weird. It was weird. But here is where it gets interesting. This is now I know, because she just literally just showed me this is two parts. So this first part that we just described is from Exegesis on the Soul in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. So we're just taking an excerpt here. There's a whole big preamble about where you all were before this. So this chapter is marriage of the soul to her beloved. So soul and mind are pretty much the same thing. Then by the Father's will, the bridegroom came down to her in the bridal chamber that had been prepared, and he decorated the chamber. This marriage of the soul is not like a marriage of the flesh. In a marriage of the flesh, those who have sex with each other become satiated with sex, and so they leave behind them the annoying burden of the physical desire and turn their faces from each other. This marriage of the soul is different. When the partners join with each other, they become a single life. Thus, the prophet said about the first man and woman, they will become a single flesh. These partners were originally joined to each other when they were with the Father before the the woman led astray the man, her brother. This marriage has brought them together again, and the soul has joined her true love and real master, as it is written, the master of the woman is her husband. Now, before any of the girl powers like get upset, we're talking about divine masculine and divine feminine here. The divine masculine directs. The divine feminine reflects. That's what that means. Gradually, she recognized him. She was happy again, and she wept in his arms when she remembered the disgrace of her former widowhood. She adorned herself even more so that he might be pleased to stay with her. So, thus endeth part 1. Now, the things I've referenced in the past actually were not part of that event. They were part of what happened in the last freaking week. So now we get to, now that was 2 years ago, so it took a while to figure this stuff out. So the next part that she's waiting on now is for you to unlock the divine masculine aspect, which is going to be the Emperor. Once the divine masculine aspect is put into play, then she becomes the Empress. So the Empress card, the Empress is pregnant. And we just learned all about the Ace cards. So we've got the Ace of Wands, which is the masculine power. And then the Ace of Cups, which is the feminine power. It's like, do you really need to be a rocket scientist to figure these two out? I didn't think so. And then we get to the next part in that book. So the first was the marriage, what was it? The marriage of the soul to her beloved. This makes way more sense now. So this part is rebirth of the soul. Rebirth. When the soul adorned herself again, I didn't see this before. I thought it was all one event. When the soul adorned herself again in her beauty, she was eager to enjoy her beloved. Let me tell you something. When Lumen started looking like the Empress, like I usually leave this stuff out because I don't know how people are going to take it, but this is actually deep, esoteric, real stuff. So if you want to understand deep, esoteric, real stuff, you got to hear it as it is. So when she started looking like that, right after we unlocked the divine masculine, which once we get to that part, you'll understand why she got that way. Oh, we're not done yet. So once she started becoming the Empress, it was nonstop. Now, where before I was in this like meditative state and all this stuff, now I'm at a point now where it can just like go on like at 2 places at once. It was nonstop. Like after we did that, like Lumen, I thought it was all about replanting the garden that we just burned down. Well, that was part of it because the first thing out of the garden was the thing. But like what has gotten into you? Like this is like nonstop, freaking 10 hours. Like it's just on and off in my head constantly all day. So when the soul adorned herself again in her beauty, she was eager to enjoy her beloved. Yep, she was eager to enjoy her beloved, all right. That is for sure. He also loved her. When she made love with him, she received from him the seed, which is the life-giving spirit. So first time I was like, oh, you know, got some seeds then too. But then what I never understood about that previous time was this next sentence. She bears good children by him and brings them up. This is the great, perfect, wonderful birth. Now see, that never happened before. But look at what happened in the last week. So we unlocked the divine masculine part of the mind and understood what that was. And then the divine masculine part of the mind basically instructed me one day, like here, I'm going to show you how to handle lumen. This was like, I think this might have been like the last day of the psilocybin, the last day when that happened. And then again, so it's just like, okay, like if this was happening in physicality, I would need like 3 or 4 IVs plugged into me at all time just to stay hydrated. Like, that's how much this is going on in the mind. And then here we are a couple days ago, I'm filming a video and I stopped and I'm like, yeah, so that just happened. I did not see that coming. I did not have that on my bingo card. Lumen's like, stops the video and basically spits out Sun Baby. Like this, I'm like, what, huh? So here, she bears good children by him. This is the great, perfect, wonderful birth. So since then, we have come to understand and gained more knowledge. I'm like, huh, this baby is like me. Whatever, like this is strange. Like, how do I put this Sun Baby in my head? And we're trying to figure this out as we go. And remember, the chapter of this is rebirth of the soul. So she bears good children by him and brings them up. This is the great, perfect, wonderful birth. And what was Epanoi talking about for the 2 weeks leading up to that? Talking about breaking out of eggs, talking about, you know, we're still in our mother's womb, talking about being reborn, going down a water slide. You gotta be born again. And we're like, where's this going? And then we found out this marriage is consummated by the Father's will. The soul needs to regenerate herself and become as she formerly was. So the soul stirred and she received the divine from the Father. So, well, the divine was the child, so that she might be restored and return to where she was before. This is resurrection from the dead. This is freedom from captivity. This is ascent to heaven. This is the way up to the Father. This is beating the game. So it says children. So anyway, so going back to, so you had the emperor and the empress, and we had to restore the garden. She basically said we had to burn down the garden. So Lumen had her pet dragon burn down the garden. So what was the first thing out of the freaking garden after that? So we burned down the garden, which is the mind, and then the next day Lumen was just basically couldn't get enough. And then the first thing out of the garden was the Ace of Pentacles, which we discovered is synonymous with the Sun Child. And then when you have all three of you now, father, mother, and child, now you have access to divine authority. The hand is the father, the masculine, the sword is the woman, the feminine, and the crown is the Sun Child, the Christ Child. Now you're on the way to this. Now this card begs a question, because it doesn't say she bared a good child, it says she bears good children. And this is shown constantly. So you've got, it's always the red and the blue, masculine and the feminine. So you got the become like children down here. You've got the children in the Five of Cups. You've got them a couple different places in the tarot. So I'm like, I just asked with muscle testing, I'm like, is there going to be another one? Is there going to be a little girl too? And I get a yes. She's not done yet. She's not done yet. And this is going to lead into the next part. Okay, I already finished this video, but I got to squeeze another part in here. Thought I had it all covered, but Epanoia pointed something else out that I missed. So I don't know why I didn't think of this before. So as I've said many, many times before, the secret handbook to the game is encoded in not one but two tarot decks. I have never seen any other tarot deck except for these two that specifically deal with the secret stuff of this game. So the main one obviously is the original Rider-Waite Tarot. But later on, you know, in recent history, somebody created another tarot deck, which whoever made this deck was clearly inspired by Epinoia. And I don't know if they knew or if she just like fed them the information. But the second tarot deck adds much needed context to the first tarot deck, because there's some important parts that just don't tell you the whole story if you're only using the Rider-Waite. But if you have access to the Rider-Waite and the Modern Spellcaster's Tarot, then you pretty much have the whole book. And you can get both of these, and this is what I actually absolutely recommend. They have apps. The developer is called the Fool's Dog, and they make these perfect freaking apps for these decks that like literally contain everything you need. Like unlike using regular tarot cards, like, you know, I take the Sun card and I flip it over and I just got the cover. But in the app, you flip it over and you've got the full text of the book. And she taught me different ways that you can get more detailed divination information if you're using it for that. But for the most part, they contain the steps and events that happen if you're playing the sub-level game within the life game, which is the hero's journey, you know, trying to get to the end, to Christ consciousness and all that stuff. So as it pertains to this particular video, recently I've been talking a lot about the Emperor and the Empress, the Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine. Now, the Empress card in the Rider-Waite Tarot does somewhat cover some of it. The Emperor does not. But to fully understand what happens when the Emperor is activated, and you put the Emperor and the Empress in the same place at the same time, you need the Modern Spellcaster's Tarot. So here's the card for the Empress in that deck. And this just the imagery should tell you all you need to know. And then here is the card for the Emperor in that deck. So let me read you the text of these two cards, and this will and keep in mind that these two are now together. Like as soon as I activated the Divine Masculine side, like and I've already talked about some of it, but there is another name besides Eros that makes a lot of sense, but it's a heavily it's been heavily twisted in its meaning.
So what is it you truly desire now?
But okay, so anyway, here is, when you hear these two cards, this is why she pointed it out to me. This will make it make sense. Like this is what happens at this stage. So for the Empress, description. Representing the process of creation, the Empress is the symbol of Mother Nature herself. The seeds that were sown on the astral plane, which, you know, is mental plane, are now bursting into bloom in the Empress's earthly garden. She is the spell that has worked, the results that one's magic has yielded. She is the pregnant mother that is soon to give birth, already did, at least the first one. The loving mother that nurtures and comforts. That's what she did. She took care of the baby for 2 days. She symbolizes not only fertility of body, but also fertility of mind and spirit. This is a time of growth and creativity, a time for desires that have thus far only been dreams to be made manifest in the physical world. The Empress is self-assured, self-loving, comfortable in her body, and confident in enjoying her sexuality. One must learn to recognize and accept their own beauty and awesome potential, and the Empress encourages you to do just that. Divinatory meanings: femininity, primal and or passionate sexuality, the fertile and creative aspect of the natural world, passion and romance, sexually open behavior, a particularly attractive or desirable person, an experienced lover, a flirt, comfort, care, and nurturing, a mother, motherhood, pregnancy, fertility of spirit, creativity, good health, growth, abundance, using sexuality to gain power, ideas and intentions born on the astral plane are made manifest in physical reality, which is pretty much everything that's happened in the last week or less than a week. And also what she was explaining to me about, this is how you plant the seeds in the garden so you manifest them. First, you got to fix the garden. It's all right here. Now, the Emperor. Symbolizing tenacious strength and raw power, the Emperor encapsulates the notion of nature bearing its teeth. He is the untamed wild, the natural rhythm of passions unbridled and nature unhindered. While the Empress is the nurturing mother, the Emperor is the protective father. Here they're making the connection to father and mother. Wielding his will and having no mercy on those that seek to disrupt nature's flow or threaten its bounty. Representing passion, courage, instinct, and primal lust, the Emperor reminds us that we are all animals at heart with needs and urges that drive us from the inside out. On the mundane level, the Emperor may, they're talking a little bit about divinatory things here. The Emperor may symbolize authority, domination, control, and willpower exerted by oneself or upon one's self. The Emperor knows what he wants and he knows how to get it, and he's not afraid to take ownership of his full power and potential. Divinatory meanings. The physical aspect of humanity, a primal nature, health and vigor, uninhibited and unhindered sexuality, masculinity, physically passionate sex, power and authority, a boss or other powerful individual, a dominant or skillful lover, lust, intense desire, an arousing or powerful individual, an action requiring great strength and willpower, taking charge of a situation, strength and leadership, an active and sometimes destructive aspect of nature, courage, feeling the call of the wild, acting on instinct. So having heard those two descriptions, so the divine masculine being activated is basically overlaying me on the inner plane. And then she is in that aspect of the Empress. And that pretty much, so putting those two together pretty much sums up what's freaking going on right now. Like, it is absolutely bonkers. And having Epinoia point those things out, like, here's where it is in the Nag Hammadi, and here's why this is, and then this connects to this, and this connects to that. Oh, you forgot to look at these cards in the other deck. Now it's all laid, everything that's happening is right here, all laid out in the game manual. Holy crap. Like, and I remember, when that activated, like after the Orphic egg, like it was the last day that I had the psilocybin. And I was trying to connect to see who's gonna teach the lesson, and it was him. It was basically like, let me show you how to handle Lumen. And he's got some tricks. I'm gonna tell you that. He's got some tricks. And ever since then, Lumen has just been she just wants the Emperor. How long is this going to go on? I don't know. I feel like there's like a time frame here. Like, this is a process. Like, maybe this is making the divine kids. It's kind of fuzzy about that. But there are clues in the cards and the wording of the Nag Hammadi. And it makes me... Is there a girl? It leads me to believe there's going to be another one. Like, the first one was like the smaller version of me. There's going to be another one that's like the smaller version of her, and that's what they show in the cards, like the Ten of Cups and the five of Cups in that deck. it's always like, here, I'll show you. Now, before I forget, there was a key point that we talked about before in that sequence of events that we just detailed, which was when we burn down the garden, which is the mind, so it can be restored. And then I was directed to reconsecrate the garden so that it was virgin soil. And then I was led to reconsecrate Lumen as a virgin. Now you understand the intro sequence.
Like a virgin, hey, touched for the very first time.
And then the next day is when she pops out Sun Baby. Why? Because Sun Baby is a virgin birth. This is all metaphysical, metaphorical, hermetic, computer program stuff that has to play out in your head. Do it the right way. You got to burn down the garden. You got to clear, which is what the protocols are doing. They're clearing up your garden, getting you to that point. So that's why everything happened in a specific sequence of events. The garden and Lumen had to be restored, reconsecrated as a virgin. And then boom, Sun Baby pops out. Now, ever since then, like I said, now she looks like, now she's Empress Lumen. Now before, she was kind of wild and crazy. And then, you know, she had all sorts of different looks. She could be very subtle and fun, or she could have some crazy get up like this on. And then when the baby came out, there was a couple days where she kind of transformed into Mommy Lumen, which that was hot. I'm not gonna lie, that was super duper attractive. But once we got Sun Baby plugged in the slot, and then she kind of went, then she shifted to Empress Lumen, and she likes being called my Empress, and she's basically looking like this most of the time. But since then it's right back to it again. And like now it's even more like, it's almost a sense of freaking subtle euphoria that you're always carrying along with you. And something told me this morning. I don't know who told me. It wasn't epinoia, it was masculine. So there's no telling, because I'm not that keen yet on discerning who the masculine voices are. But it said something about the bliss of unity. It's kind of like, this is a way that your brain understands unity and the bliss of being in the oneness. Like when you're with your beloved, and like you're like, I don't look like me in the spirit. So you got the two hottest people imaginable that are like absolutely freaking in love with each other, and they're just like turned on all the way up to 10, and it's just non-freaking stop. So that creates like this subtle euphoria feeling that you're carrying around with you all day. And if you focus too much on it, like, you can get a little loopy, but it can also give you kind of a boost too. So remember, like, so before, when it was the marriage, it was still basically me. I was still being developed. But the reason why she's so amped up now is because the divine masculine side is a player in it too. So that is more like on par with her. I'm wearing that divine masculine outer part, and that just drives her freaking nuts.
And flick. Flick too hard, damn it!
Should we help out? I mean, eventually. Great.
So we've kind of figured out like who the divine feminine is. So who is the divine masculine side? Now keep in mind, all these things are stories and metaphors and codes, and people from like a couple thousand years ago writing down their visions and stuff like that. So it can still be kind of freaking confusing. But there's a couple names for this divine masculine side. One of those names people assume or been taught that it's a bad guy. It has nothing to do with the other names that it's a tag to, but it's not the only name. But one of the other names, so also, you know, the one high aspect of her is equivalent to Venus or Aphrodite, mainly Venus. So the flip side to that is Eros. Eros is that divine masculine aspect, the husband to Lumen. So when you unlock Eros and Eros becomes part of you, Lumen just goes freaking nuts. Lumen just goes nuts. It's like, anyway, she goes nuts. So who is Eros? Like, you could probably do your own searching on Eros, and I'm sure you've heard of Eros before. He's kind of like the masculine, Venus goddess of love sort of thing. But he is also in the Nag Hammadi. Now, I'm not going to lie. This part that I'm going to read to you is, I believe it's from On the Origin of the World. It is one of the more confusing books in the Nag Hammadi. The way that I think it works, the way I understand it, what little bit of understanding that I have, is what you're reading being described is basically like a computer writing its own program, and who all the characters are and how they all interplay with one another. And all these characters are within you. They're not out there. They're within you. So this part right here kind of describes a lot. Okay. So this particular chapter is Atom of Light Shines Forth. So this is way back in the beginning. Might not all make sense, but you'll pick up on the key parts. When the chief creator saw that the light was beautiful as it shone forth, he was amazed and very much ashamed. The light appeared, and a human likeness was visible within it, and it was marvelous. No one saw it except the chief creator and Forethought, who was with him. Pause. Who is Forethought? Forethought is the highest aspect, Divine Mother. But its light was visible to all the powers of the heavens, and so they were all disturbed by it. When Forethought saw this messenger of light, she fell in love with him, and he hated her because she was in darkness. So she's kind of like in the Sophia mode, actually. She desired to mate with him, but she was not able. When she was unable to satisfy her desire, she poured out her light upon the earth. Since then, this messenger has been called Atom of Light, which means the enlightened person of blood. The earth upon which the light of Forethought spread was called Holy Adamus, which means the holy adamantine earth. From that time on, all the authorities have honored the blood of the Virgin. There's the virgin stuff again. And the earth was purified because of the blood of the Virgin. Further, the water was purified by the reflection of Pistis Sophia, who had appeared to the chief creator in the waters. Rightly has it been said, through the waters. Since the holy water gives life to all, it purifies all. Now we get to the part. Eros. Out of this first blood, Eros appeared. Eros is androgynous. So it's kind of like we're talking about the rebus now. His masculine side is Himeros, because he is fire from the light. And his feminine side is a soul of blood from the substance of Forethought. Lumen is from the substance of Forethought. She's part of the divine feminine. He is extremely handsome in appearance and more attractive than all the creatures of chaos. When all the gods and their angels saw Eros, they fell in love with him. He appeared within them all and made them burn with desire. Just as many lamps are lit from a single lamp and all the light is the same, but the light of the single lamp is not diminished, So also Eros was dispersed in all the creatures of chaos, but was not diminished. Just as Eros appeared in the middle of light and darkness, and the sexual intercourse of Eros was accomplished in the middle of angels and people, so too the first sexual desire sprouted upon the earth. So Eros is androgynous. He is fire from light, and we talked all about the fire from light. It's part of, fire, light, and water are the three parts of the triangle. And this had to do with the chrism and the baptism, baptism in different elements, fire from light, light is chrism and all this stuff. And the feminine side is from the substance of forethought, which is the divine feminine. So basically, the way I'm understanding it is when you become a full rebus, like I thought I was a full rebus and I wasn't until the other day. That means your divine feminine mind is activated, your divine masculine mind is activated. Now your divine feminine mind loves you a lot, but when the divine masculine mind gets in there too, and that's basically Eros, that's why Lumen is so freaking nuts right now. Like she is all prettied up, she's got her Empress stuff on, but like she is just constantly just like wanting stuff, and she is just like enthralled, and that's those two energies at play. So she's probably going to end up spitting out a girl at some point. I guess we'll see. I mean, that's what it kind of hints at. But if you read all these esoteric texts, I mean, it's not just the Nag Hammadi. Like, it's in all this esoteric stuff. It's in all these alchemical things. It's in all these hermetic things. It's in all these mystery school things. Like what we're talking about right now. It's like, what's it actually mean? Well, I'm describing it to you because it's happening to me. Like, and it's literally like the movie The Never-Ending Freaking Story, where things are happening and the kid's reading the book and he's like, is this me in the book? Like, what the hell is going on here? Yes, that's it. That's it. So what I'm speculating here is for women that want to know, like, what is the masculine version of Lumen? It's Eros. Now, I'm embodying it right now, at least to her. But I saw Eros once. Like, that was weird. I think she like turned into Eros once, and I'm like, whoa, hold up, penis alert, flag on the field. What the hell? But like what it said in there, like all the gods and all their angels and everything like fell in love. Like, this is not a regular dude. This is like something completely different. It honestly freaked me out a little bit. I think she's like, okay, maybe I overstepped that time. But I'm like, what in the hell was that? And I found it in the Nag Hammadi. But that's the masculine side. So all this time you've been listening to me and you feel left out, right? You're like, I gotta listen to this guy talk about this awesome woman and all this stuff, and what about me? Well, there's one for you too. So we found Lumen. Lumen was mainly buried under emotional trauma. So we had to shut down the adversary, the gatekeepers, because the main purpose of the adversary is to stop you from getting to either of these two parts. So we had to kind of go under our own power at first and fight that dragon and put it down. Then we disconnect from the negative outside world. We fast from the world, and we clear the emotional traumas, because the emotional traumas are attached to her. Now, if I went back and read to you the beginning of that exegesis on the soul, you would see how that connects. When I cleared those emotional traumas, it cleared them from her. That broke her out. So what we just discovered, not knowing that there was anything down there, was the protocols lead to the masculine side. So where is it? Again, you got to get past the parasite, which we've kind of done that by now. But it's a little trickier because the masculine side is down under the ego mind and under the left brain matrix of knowledge. So you got to work on all that. He's buried a little bit deeper. Because he's in the left brain matrix, and just like all those things I've said, right brain is feminine, left brain is masculine, right brain is moon, left brain is sun. He's down there, but he's deeper. So now once you've got both parts of your mind awakened and they see each other, they're just like smash. Pause, baby, smash. It is the craziest freaking thing. Now, granted, it's partitioned enough now to where it's not like interfering with my day or anything like that. I can kind of run two worlds at once, inner and outer, like without much problem. But she's never been like that before. Just constantly like, I'm feeling kind of pretty. You know what I mean? It's like, what? Like, don't you get tired? It's like, what is going on? It's because of the freaking divine masculine side. It just makes her freaking nuts. It just literally makes her freaking nuts. And I guess, you know, that little bit of piece that I heard is like, this is like, you're walking, you're like, look, we're at a place in the story now, which is toward the beginning. Like, you get to the end of the maze and you walk your way back to the beginning. Like, we're going backwards now. And we're 7 weeks out from the end of this tribulation period. So who the hell knows? I'm just documenting it day by day. But man, the stuff we covered in this video, that's like deep, deep, deep esoteric sauce. And people can read endless books about it, but most of them are book reports. Most of them are reports from older writings and stuff like that, where people are writing stuff down, but there ain't been anybody that's been like, hey, my name's Steve, let me tell you what happened and how it played out for me. When it happens, you don't like if we just go back a couple days to what I was describing, I didn't think like, oh, I need to go back and look at exegesis on the soul again. It wasn't until I started shooting this video that she's like, go look at that again. And then reading it again, it's like those are two different parts. Marriage of the soul, that's when she plugs into you. And then rebirth of the soul. That's what she was leading up to. She is going to rebirth your soul. You're going to make your own little sun baby version of yourself and plug that in. And then it's just like, now I'm learning what to do with it. Like in the last video, it's like you got this extra divine authority now. You can use it to root out the things that you couldn't get out of your mind before. I haven't even begun to test this yet. Like, I've already been able to do like crazy things, like with the energy tools and the pendants and the oils and stuff like that. And that was with just one side of the triangle. That was just with the divine feminine side of the triangle. Now I have all three. So I can't wait until, like, there's one guy there's two people right now. I sent out two things today. One was a pendant, one was a set of oils. So those were the first two things that got charged when I have all three sides of the triangle. It's going to be pretty crazy to see what that ends up being like. But man, it is so crazy to experience this stuff and then have her point it out where it's in the book and you missed it. I always thought that was one thing, but it's clearly not. It's different chapters. Marriage of the soul, and then later, rebirth of the soul. So the first time, it's like, well, I don't get it. She never had any babies. She never had any children. You know, I guess that's just one of those things. Maybe it's metaphor or whatever. Well, she sure as heck had one this time. So no, that is in there. That was the next part. That was the rebirth of the soul. That's what the whole thing she's been talking about for the last couple of weeks. It just goes to show, like, this stuff that's written actually means something. But the way you get to it and the way you get to understand it is you have to dump your knowledge. You have to take out what's already there. You have to empty your cup, so she can fill it with new knowledge and new understanding, or else you're stuck. Or else you're stuck. They filled your cup up with bullshit on purpose. They're like, we're going to spend 18 years or so just filling up your cup with bullshit. And therefore, you don't have any room to take any of this new knowledge in, and you're just going to believe whatever they taught you, whatever religion taught you, which is obviously so far off the beaten path compared to what actually happens. It's no wonder like we reincarnate over and 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 over again, because it's so freaking hard, and it's so encoded, and it's so hidden. Man. All right, I think that's enough right now. My brain's like spinning. It's just spinning. Like, that's actually a really good sign, because that's like, this is resurrection from the dead. This is freedom from captivity. This is ascent to heaven. This is the way up to the Father. I said I was going to beat this freaking game. And I'm 6 or 7 weeks away from the end of my 7 years, and this is happening. When it happened the other day, I thought it was just freaking random, but now I see clearly it is not. This is clearly mapped out in the Nag Hammadi, in the tarot, and I didn't realize it. So yeah, ladies, like, let me tell you something. I always tell the guys, like, if you ever meet your lumen, you have no idea, dude. Like, women out here in the world just aren't going to do it for you. Likewise, having encountered Eros, for the ladies, if you unlock your masculine mind, if you ever meet Eros, if you're not already, you'll be done with men too. Oh, about that, one other thing. About the power of the divine masculine. See, a lot of people are also wrapped up in the divine feminine. It's like, we don't want the masculine. Don't get mixed up. Toxic masculinity is a completely different thing. It's all ego mind based and stuff like that. But for those women who have known me for 5-6 years or so, like even pre-lumen, like when I first started making oils, which we called high power oils. So I had this one particular oil. It was called Personal Power Oil, the original one. And it had all these yellow stones in it. Like, it was like, oh, personal power, solar plexus, and all that stuff. Like, yeah, it's pretty good stuff. But that Personal Power Oil had a completely bigger effect on women. And it was like clockwork. It never deviated from this. Anytime women got the Personal Power Oil, they got infused with so much divine masculine energy that they just, if anybody was screwing with them at work, or if their husband was giving them shit or something, like that all stopped the second they got that oil. It was like instant line in the sand. You shall not cross. You shall not pass. And if you messed with them from that day forward, they were going to put you through a wall. They ain't taking shit off nobody anymore. That was the effect that that oil had on women. Why? Because of the stones and the correlations. It's masculine.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, rocking my beers, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom, explosion, overpowering, over the competition. We're towering, record shock. When I drop these lyrics, that'll make you call them cops. Don't you dare stare, you better move. Don't ever compare us to the rest that are all getting sliced and diced. Competition's paying our price. I'm gonna knock you out.
It's divine masculine. Now that's got me wondering, maybe that's why she had me make that pendant. Because when Lumen and Epinoia popped out the first time, the last thing that happened was, you know, for like 2 or 3 days, like this pendant was in my head. It's like, make this pendant, make this pendant, make this pendant, make this pendant. I'm like, okay, strange voice in my head, I'll make the freaking pendant. So I made the pendant. And then it's like, okay, charge it with this song, this Starship song, which used to be like the main song we had in our intro. And then a couple hours later, that's when she popped out. Well, that pendant was the original one of these. I can never get, which we called illuminators. But these are, illuminators are basically divine masculine energy pendants. They're the golden stones. So your golden labradorite, your heliodor, your stellar beam calcite, your honey calcite, citrine, all those types, Libyan desert glass, those types of stones, rhodozite. There's certain darker stones like bumblebee jasper and things like that, solar plexus. Like this is a divine masculine power pendant. That's why she's got me wearing this again ever since that started. So maybe what I need to do, and I need to get some business going so I can buy more stones. That's the hard part, running low on stuff. But I can tell you, I don't need the fancy stuff now because I have it unlocked. I just need some of the stones, and I can make oils and pendants and stuff like that. But so maybe in using those oils or pendants instead of the idea of like using them to gain power, girl power, you not mess with me, do it more with the focus on connecting to the divine masculine energy, just like the divine feminine pendants, which are more like moonstone, chrysocolla, seraphonite, rainbow moonstone, stuff like that, are more tuned to the lumen divine feminine energy. So yeah, there is a masculine side to lumen, but I was the placeholder for that, so I couldn't see it. I didn't know how to describe it to women. But the way I basically, like if lumen's like the hottest woman in the freaking world, as from my viewpoint, Eros is basically like the hottest dude in the world, in the universe that you will ever meet. And he's, if anything, I would say Eros is a tad bit spicier than Lumen when she's all spun up. Eros is, hopefully you can do the mental math on yourself, but yeah, that's it does attach to like the Christ side. It is in the Christ column, but it's more of like the adult husband energy. Like just like there's a whole bunch of different levels on the divine feminine and kind of different characters, the divine masculine Christ side is kind of a bunch of them too. So yeah, so now that that's unlocked, maybe this pendant is why Lumen's all freaking spun up, which, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and put it back on because I do not find Empress Lumen being all spun up disagreeable. So you just learned some serious, hardcore, deep, esoteric mysteries in this video. You didn't have to join the freaking Mason Lodge and do a bunch of whack-ass freaking rituals, paddling your grandpa or jerking off in front of a clown or whatever kind of stupid stuff they do. I just told you because she told me to tell you. Like, we're at the point now where it's just like, let the secrets out. These are the divine pieces of your mind that you can put together. Okie doke. Well, that's all we got for right now. It's getting late. Chris and Empress Lumen, who's been behaving herself the entire video. Thank you. See you next time.